Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Cher, the Shadow Walker, and today I'm looking at the last 48 hours for Bigfoot, Dogman, Hellhound, Skinwalker, Spider Humanoid, and Mothman sightings in the eastern provinces of Canada and the United States. I'm going to start with Nova Scotia. On March 25th at approximately 11:45 p.m. in the Cape Breton area, the Wreck Cove area, the Highlands, a motorist reported seeing a large bipedal figure crossing the Cabot Trail. He noticed that it took 3 bounds for it to clear the road. So 3 quick strides and it disappeared into the tree line. The witness was traveling at 80 kilometers an hour, and he estimated its height to be 8+ feet tall. He reported it to a Facebook group down there and the regional Bigfoot researchers group. There was a Dogman sighting on March 24th at 3:20 a.m. in the morning in the Kingston Peninsula bordering New Brunswick. The resident said that they experienced a soul reading encounter and they felt intense, overwhelming mental pressure before seeing the canine's headed figure standing near the old magnetic deposit. They felt paralyzed with the mind speak and fear, and they had the emotional download. They reported it to the Canadian Dogman file. And a hellhound on March 25th at 9:15 in Lunenburg County in the coastal woods. There was a report of a shadow dog with glowing eyes trailing a vehicle for several kilometers before it vanished near a bridge. It was pacing the vehicle at approximately a distance of 15 to 20 meters, and they reported it to the local paranormal investigator. Now, there's been a lot of incidents of Mothman down there, basically in the Truro area. So at dusk on March 24th, in the Truro uplands, an ongoing red-eyed sighting in the Appalachians uplands region of Nova Scotia, a witness reported seeing a large wing-shaped perched on the hydro tower. And they noticed its reflective red eyes, and it was visible from 100 yards away, and they reported it to the Paranormal Encounters Board. There was a spider humanoid in my old area of Kedjimacujik on March 26th at 1 a.m. in the morning, so early morning, at the park entrance. A report of a multiple pale-limbed figure moving unnatural speeds across the road. It was described as skittering rather than running. Rapid transition movements at the speed that exceeded the witness's ability to keep up with in its high beams. Wow. And they reported it to the private sighting log and the Kedjimacujik's area researchers. Edward Island over the last 48 hours, there was a hellhound. On March 25th at 10 p.m. in the Goose River area, a resident reported a jet black canine with reflective yellow and orange eyes near the edge of a lot. The witness described the creature as being the size of a bear, but with a lean, muscular build of a wolf. They said that it hissed or it was low growling while it was staring at the witness through a window. And they reported it to the local hellhound file down there. And there was a Bigfoot on March 24th at 4:15 a.m. And this is in the O'Leary area. This is the western area of Prince Edward Island. So during a heavy snowfall, a snowplow operator reported seeing a tall figure on the side of the road. He was going approximately 30 kilometers with the plow, and he noted that it was over 7.5 feet tall. It didn't really react to the plow's lights. It just stood there on the side of the road and then it turned and walked into the tree line. And they reported it to the Provincial Transit Dispatch. And there was a dogman or shapeshifter. That's what's classified here as. March 26th at 1:45 a.m. in the Greenwich, St. Peter's Bay area, my area. A report of a large figure hunched over, moving on all fours, then briefly standing on two legs and looking over a fence. The movement was described as fluid and blurring, typical shapeshifter class entity. And the witness felt that intense sense of dread before, and they reported it to the regional researchers, Prince Edward Island shapeshifting law. And there was a Mothman or winged humanoid. Sometimes I'm not sure whether they're crossing these over with spider humanoids or not. It was March 24th at 9 p.m. It was in the Northumberland Strait near the Wood Island, so that's up on the end there. A witness reported a huge dark bird-like shape with wingspans exceeding 10 feet gliding over the water towards Nova Scotia. No vocalization was heard, but witnesses noticed oversized red glints where the head and shoulders would be. And they reported it to the Atlantic Digital Scanning. In Newfoundland, near Gander Lake, there was a report of a Bigfoot, and it was described as a massive hairy figure seen through the blowing snow. The witness initially thought it was a moose until it stood up and walked into the dense bush. Yes, a moose does not walk on two legs. And the witness noted the entity moved with a heavy lugging gait through the deep snow that would have trapped a human. And they reported it to the Atlantic Bigfoot Research Digital Log. And a dogman at 2:15 on March 24th in the Avalon Peninsula near Holyrood. The sighting, a late-night traveler reported a wolf-like creature standing on its hind legs near the highway rock cut. The witness described an unbearable feeling of being watched before seeing the creature's eyes reflect into the high beams. The witness was traveling at 100 kilometers an hour and did not stop. Reported it to the dogman file. And then there was a report of Cressy, the sea monster. And this was in the Roberts Arm area on March 26th in the early morning. It doesn't give a specific time. It just says early morning. While the lake is still partially iced, a local reported seeing agitated water and a dark, sleek hump break through an open patch, surfacing. And the witness noted the movement was too rhythmic to be a seal or a log. And they reported it to the Community Cressy Watch Group. And there was a Mothman, or a winged humanoid, on March 24th at 11:30 p.m. in the St. John's, the Signal Hill area. A report of a large black winged shape silhouette against the city lights gliding from cliff towards the Narrows. No sounds were reported. And witness was a night shift worker who observed it for roughly 10 seconds. They reported it to the private paranormal investigating board, the St. John's chapter. And a spider humanoid on March 25th at 3 a.m. in the Deer Lake area, a resident reported a thin, long-limbed figure climbing the side of an outer building. When the motion sensor light hit the creature, it folded into itself and disappeared under the crawl space. The witness noted it moved like a spider but looked like a pale person. And they reported it to the RCMP, and it was reported as a possible prowler, but no tracks. Brunswick in the last 48 hours, on March 25th at 8:40 a.m. in the Elgin Caledonian Mountain area, A group of night hikers reported a sequence of heavy wood knocks followed by a deep, vibrating chest growl. Then they saw a massive silhouette moving parallel to their trail at approximately 200 meters. The witness said that at elevation of roughly 300 meters on the mountain ridge is where it was pacing in a way that they felt was intimidating. And they reported it to the Bigfoot of New Brunswick organization. And then there was a dog man on March 24th at 11:15 p.m. in the Kingston Peninsula area. And they reported high-pitched non-canine vocalizations, and a local resident reported seeing a wolf-like creature on two legs near the magnetic deposit site. Vocalizations were heard, and the witness reported sudden nausea and an infrasound from the infrasound before the visual sighting. And they reported it to the Dogman File Canada, 2026. There was a hellhound in the Miramichi or Miramichi, whichever you prefer, on March 25th at 2 a.m. in the Miramichi River Valley, wooded outskirts. And it was a transport driver, and he reported seeing a large black dog with burning eyes that appeared to be running alongside the truck at 90 kilometers before leaping into the bush without losing momentum. And the driver noted the creature stayed in his side view mirror for over a minute, running with him, and they reported it to the private Miramichi paranormal log. There was a spider humanoid at 3:30 a.m. on March 26th in the Sunpoke Lake area south of Octomo. The sighting, a report of a spindly pale figure moving with a jerky spider-like gait across a private dock. The witness stated the movement was unnatural and it was in not unnatural angles. It seemed to glitch in and out. The witness observed it from a distance of 40 meters with a thermal monocular. And they reported it to the Land of Spiders Research Group. Not sure what that is. And Mothman on March 24th at dusk near Moncton in the Irish Town Nature Park. Multiple reports of a large shadow with a wingspan of 3 meters gliding silently over the nature parks. No vocalization, but a distinct humming noise was reported by one witness. Aerial surveillance witnesses noted it was at an altitude of approximately 50 meters. And they reported it to the Paranormal Encounters and the local community watch. So in Maine, over the last 48 hours, Bigfoot. On March 25th at 10 p.m., north of Greenville in the Moosehead Lake area, a group at a remote logging camp reported a menacing vocalization that lasted for over an hour. One witness described a large dark mass standing near a tree line. It appeared to be observing the camp's light. The witnesses noted the screams were metallic and multitonal, and they matched the patterns of a Class B report. And they reported it to the BFRO and to the regional Maine cryptid logs. And a dog man on March 24th at 1:30 a.m. near Turner and Auburn, a homeowner reported their livestock acting erratic before spotting a large hyena-like creature on 2 legs near the edge of their pasture. The creature reportedly moved with a hitch in its step. The witness described a sulfur smell accompanying the sighting, and they reported it to the local animal control as a possible rabbit wolf. And they also reported it to a dogman researcher's log. And a hellhound, or a black shuck, on March 25th at 11:50 p.m. in the coastal Route 1 area. A night shift worker driving home reported a massive black dog with glowing red eyes sitting perfectly still on the center line of the highway. As the car approached, the entity vaporized or faded into the fog. The witness noted that he was traveling at 75 kilometers an hour, and they reported it to the Maine Paranormal Society digital intake. And a Mothman on March 24th at dusk in the Portland area near the International Cryptozoology Museum, the Old Port area. Two separate reports of a man-sized bird with 10-foot wingspan gliding silently between the rooftops. One witness noticed the creature had no visible head with eyes in its chest. And it was flying at a low altitude for roughly 15 seconds. And it was reported to the museum's sighting board in regards to Mothman. And a spider humanoid, or a pale crawler, whichever you prefer, on March 26th at 4 a.m. in the Aroostook County near the Canadian border of Holton. A Border Patrol sensor was allegedly triggered by a pale, spindly figure moving on all fours at high speed. A local resident later reported seeing a white, hairless man crouching on the top of a hay bale. Transit witnesses noted impossible degree of movement of its joints, and they reported it to the Northern Border Monitoring Group. New Hampshire State on March 25th at 2:30 p.m. in the White Mountains near Mount Washington. Two people hiking. They were in a ravine area, and they reported seeing what they initially thought was a bear. However, when it stood up on its two legs and became bipedal, it took off into the bush at a speed that they just couldn't get over. And they said they just couldn't wrap their heads around it at all. And they reported it to the digital intake log of Coast to Coast. And there was a dog man in the U.S.A. area at March 24th at 11:55 p.m. in the U.S.A. mountain range. A report of a large, muscular canine figure standing on its hind legs near a dense forest ridge. The witness noticed the entity seemed to be scouting the valley below. Witness reported a sudden drop in ambient forest noise, that Oz effect, and they reported it to the Granite State Bigfoot / Cryptid researchers. And there was a hellhound on March 25th at 1:15 a.m. in the Portsmouth area near the coastal cliffs. And it was a security guard, and he reported a large black dog with smoldering yellow eyes sitting on the seawall. When the worker turned back to look a second time, the animal was gone. He said that the temperature dropped for that 30 seconds of the encounter to unseasonably cold, and he reported it to the paranormal investigator log. There was a spider humanoid on March 26th at 3 a.m. near Bear Brook State Park in the Allenstown area. So this was one person, he was camping, he or she, it doesn't say, excuse me. A white spindly figure that appeared to have too many limbs moving quickly up a tree trunk. And the witness used a high-powered flashlight and noted the pale skin rather than a shell. And they reported it to the Mammoth March Community Board. And there was a Mothman on March 24th at 8:45 p.m. in the Manchester area near Merrimack River. And a commuter reported a massive winged shadow gliding silently under the bridge. The shape was estimated to be 7 feet with no visible flapping of the wings. So it was just gliding. And they reported a sudden feeling of dread. And they reported it to the cryptids of the New Hampshire sub thread. Thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful day. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It's free and I greatly appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.